There it is. There we go. All right, we'll call the February 13 PPRTA meeting to order. Get Mr. Bennett to pay attention here. All right. So it looks like we do have a quorum, so I guess the first item is approval of the agenda.
Move approved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? That carries unanimously. Item number 3, public comment for items not on the agenda. Is there anybody present who wants to talk about any PPRTA issue that is not on the agenda? Mike Chavez from the city.
That mouth.
It's all right, you're like me.
Okay. First of all, I think we're going to adjust the agenda.
I think we pulled the
Okay, it was already
question.
done. Okay, all right, not a problem. I just
The question on the spine, which is item, is that even on the agenda now? Is that?
Yes, D, 8D.
8D has been pulled.
we're going to.
Yes, so I think...
The City of Colorado Springs requests to use capital funds for Spine Road through the UCCS campus.
Okay, we're going to bring that back next month.
Right, so just to be technical, you did approve the agenda, but it's on the agenda, so if we could just revisit that. You meant to remove...
I meant to
8.
remove, I thought it was already removed from what we talked about, so.
That's what I meant the motion to say.
All right.
I was reading your mind. Since you gave me the tip on the cookie, I could just feel that's what you were saying.
Then I guess the motion would be, does anybody have an objection to removing item 8D from the agenda? Okay, a motion for that.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. So the amended agenda has been approved.
Okay.
Thank
all
you,
right.
Michael.
Thank you. Okay, real briefly, I just wanted to let the board know that the Whitman Road widening that we finished last year, June of 18, won an award for the from the American Public Works Association Colorado chapter for large transportation project in the state. So I just wanted to let the board know and brought a plaque for the board, or the wall.
I live very close for there, and thank you. It's wonderful. You did a great job.
Oh, thank you. It seems to be working.
The award was the longest?
No, for...
longest duration? No.
Yeah. Well, if you go back to when we started that in 2009, when the county
It's a
did...
great job. No, it's a great job.
All right, thank you.
It'll take a while, though.
Any other public comment? Then we'll move to...
Quick suggestion, Mr. Chair. We have a new board member, Commissioner Williams, and I think she had training last month, and they have the meetings. Why don't
That's
do
true. We should introduce ourselves since we
Yeah.
don't know each other, and that's a great idea. Thank you.
We never run into each other at meetings. Commissioner Williams for El Paso County. And it is possible to drive through the Woodman Road, and you get used to it, and just, follow the lines, you make it right through.
And why don't we just do introductions all the way down and around?
Yeah, sure. Andy Gunning with the PPRTA.
Jennifer Ivey, legal counsel to the RTA.
Ken Juray, City of Manitou Springs.
Yolanda Avila, Colorado Springs City Council.
Tyler Stevens, Green Mountain Falls.
Lojinos Gonzalez, El Paso County Commissioner.
Dave Geislinger, City Council, Colorado Springs.
Merv Bennett, City Council. Turner Smith, Trustee, Town of Rima.
All right. Thank you, Andy. Item number 4, approval of the minutes from January 9, 2019. Anybody have any changes to the minutes suggested?
Second.
All in favor of approval of the minutes, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries unanimously. Financial reports from, is it good news, bad news, or no news bad this time? Oh, the CAC report. Oh, I'm sorry. I did skip. The Citizens Advisory Council. I am so sorry.
Good afternoon, I think.
No,
Jim
you're doing
Godfrey,
good.
Chair of the CAC. Welcome, Commissioner Williams. Look forward to working with you. Our meeting from last week, City of Colorado Springs brought together 4 contracts. You have them before you. We make a recommendation for approval on all of those. We did have some discussion on the Platte Avenue Sand Creek Bridge replacement project, just the math at the bottom of that brochure. I have not seen your version, but we recommend approval of all of those for the city. The City of Manitou Springs brought 2 contracts forward. Good discussion on those, and we recommend approval of those as well. Called your attention to the maintenance of effort. Reports that are there, we make a positive recommendation on those reports as well. We did also review the value engineering update we had talked about last month about the contract the city let to an effort to have the designer look at reducing the cost of that bridge to America the Beautiful Park. So we did talk about that, and it looks like they've saved about $1.5 million in that effort. And other than that, you've already discussed item 8, so that was it for us.
Anybody have any questions for
I just
Mr.
have one comment. Someday you need to explain to the board, other than Tyler and me, because I think they're all new, that the maintenance of effort used to be a very big issue.
Yes, it was. And I guess in full disclosure, the CAC did, while they did meet, and there's nothing we can do about this in this existing thing, but there is no mechanism for cost of living adjustments for those numbers. It's just a number across the board. And of course, during the downturn and the depression, there was an issue in transit for those things. But with the total rehab of the accounting system and stuff, it's really when during the downturn, combined offices and groups and stuff, it was very difficult to really kind of do a apples to apples comparison of this. But yes, it has been a contentious issue in the past, and we're proud to say that everybody's above board.
Mr. Chair? I was going to bring this up, but I wasn't sure if this was the place to bring it up. Is Rick here? Is this the place where I bring it up? About the maintenance of effort?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I don't know that it's not been contentious. People haven't been talking about it, but I did bring out, I copied out what we've been paying on the maintenance of effort. And so the baseline is 2004, and I think that was $5.7 million. And between 2010 and 2017, we were well below that, and we've never it's never been recovered or paid up. And also, I really want to stress that we need to have a cost of living adjustment if we're going to stick to the 2004 maintenance of effort, which is, God, a long time ago. We're looking at 15 years now, right? And we haven't had a cost of living adjustment, and I think that's got to be approved by all the government entities to have that cost of living adjustment. And so I think it may have gone under the radar since the CTC pretty much disbanded and didn't bring it up anymore. So I think this is something that I'd really like to pursue.
And I understand that. We actually had a discussion about that in the meeting beforehand.
Were you talking to the mic, please?
I thought I was. This time I actually did thought I was, and it's even turned on. We were talking about this during the meeting before the general meeting. My understanding, and Rick, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is the maintenance of effort is an aspirational goal contained in the IGA between the 5 governments. To change the maintenance of effort and/or to address the downturn in transportation funding that occurred during the downturn in the economy, that's going to be something that requires an amendment to the PPRTA IGA between the member governments. And I defer to counsel on that, because she's nodding her head.
Yeah, it's in Section 4.0 of the establishing IGA, and the language is, it is the intent of the parties that the funding from the authority will not be used to substitute for or reduce the existing funding. So it is a statement of intent of the parties that entered into the establishing IGA.
Mr. Stevens?
While it is part of the IGA and it is aspirational, if this board so desired, another option before us is to simply pass a board policy that encourages the member entities to, adopt that. So we wouldn't have to go through quite so burdensome approvals if we wanted to go in that direction, because it is, I think the intent of that provision in the IGA is strong and important, and we might want to push on updating those numbers a little bit and hopefully avoid getting into deficits into the future. But I think we could also do that simply through a board policy and say, hey, member entities, we'd like you to strive for this or not go below this line. Or whatever.
And that's not something that's on today's planning docket. Rick, can we get that maybe as an action item to consider, at least to address in the next 1 or 2 months to take a look at something along those lines?
Yes, very much so.
Okay, and I think Mr. Gonzalez has something to say.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I actually did bring this up. So even though it's not a mandate, just an intent, that does not limit any of the member governments to then correct anything. So if they provided less amount of money, that government entity could vote amongst themselves to put the money back. And actually, that was one of the options discussed in the previous meeting, because I did bring that up. And I said, well, if people shortchanged the pot before, maybe they should make it up. And that's where we discussed, well, it's not a mandate, it was an intention. But the city of Colorado Springs could vote to put more money in themselves. We don't have to mandate that. If the county did the same thing, well, the county could, in our budget system, vote amongst our county commissioners to put that money back, or the trustees of Rama or Green Mountain Falls could do the same thing without any further guidance here. But I do think it was a good discussion about lack of growth to that fund or replenishing the fund that might have been shortchanged previously.
Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So when you're talking about changing the COLA, are you talking about actually changing the percentage going to maintenance? I'm confused here.
There is no COLA.
So, or what? You were talking about changing something around the maintenance. What were you talking about changing there?
I was talking about having a cost of living inserted into, along with being at the baseline of 2004 of the maintenance, is adding a cost of living adjustment for inflation.
And I think it looks like, Jennifer, did you want to address this, or if you would?
Sure. The suggestion is that it's not maintenance money specific, it's the maintenance of effort. So the IGA has this aspirational statement that the PPRTA monies, the intent of the parties was that it would not substitute for what all the member governments were doing in 2004. So what's being suggested is that there should be a cost of living adjustment, because obviously 2004 dollars were much different than 2019 dollars. So that's the cost of living adjustment that's being referred to. I'm not sure I made this any clearer.
If I might add, so this is not to the PPRTA funds. This is if you were spending $1 million on your other capital through your regular budget. When PPRTA was passed, it said you must maintain that minimum $1 million, regardless of how much PPRTA has been growing. But that $1 million in 2004 is the same minimum you need now. So some people think that, well, perhaps that should be risen to inflation, and your general fund should have increased to $1.2 million today.
Makes sense.
All right. So you'll have something to return to address this
In the March cycle.
All right.
Yeah, for both CAC and board.
Any other questions, comments?
No, thank you.
Mr. Godfrey?
Any other questions for the
Thank you,
CAC?
Mr. Chairman.
All right. I'd entertain a motion.
To accept.
To accept.
Mahino's got.
Oh, that,
All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, and sorry
Thank you
to
very
skip
much.
over you.
Sorry I brought it up. No.
And now it's Miss Beverly. Good news, bad news, no news?
We have news today.
Oh, we have news today.
Yay.
Good.
Okay. So on the first page of the report, we're ahead of December's sales and use tax budget by $433,000. I wish it was another $3 million. That could solve some issues. But so for year-to-date, we're ahead of the budget by $4,565,000. On page 2, so this is January through December, we're ahead of last year's actual by $5,471,000, or 5.52%. And then the next 3 pages are the revenue and expense summary, comparing the expenditures to budget, and nothing is over budget. Does anybody have any questions?
And just to clarify, for that translates to how much over budget for capital improvements?
So for the year-to-date, we have $1.6 million worth of interest to add to this. So we're 3.4 over, which is the 55%.
Okay.
Because this is the gross, and we can only take the 55% for the I-25 gap. So we would need about 1.5 or 1.6 of other funds to cover the difference to $5 million for this year.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any questions for Bev? Thank you. Oh, yes, Mr. Smith.
Have we written the check for the gap yet?
No, we wouldn't, it's not even appropriated at this point. So this is revenue that was over budget for 2018 that will be appropriated in 2019 amendment process, which will be mid-year.
And we are going to have a closed session to discuss this in greater detail, but I wanted that information about the amount in excess to be revealed in open session. So at the end, we'll be talking about, just so you know, in greater detail.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
The 2019 capital maintenance and public transportation contracts, Mr. Chavez for the City of Colorado Springs.
Good afternoon, members of the board. Mike Chavez, City Engineering. I've got 3 items that are up for approval, and then one's an informational item on the list. So the first item, we have a bridge maintenance item. We have 2 twin 11-foot corrugated metal pipes that run under Dublin, just east of Rangewood. And the city stormwater program is looking at putting a detention pond upstream there, basically where that fire station is. That's where the pipes cross. And these corrugated metal pipes are something that are falling apart. They're from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So since we're going to be doing the pond project, we thought it would be a good idea to reline these 2 pipes so that they get about another 70 years of service life out of them. And so this project is combining, it's kind of a joint effort with Swenton RTA Bridge Maintenance to get the whole project done. So the RTA portion to line those pipes is $440,000. Next item is kind of a accounting item for the Circle Bridge project, the Platte Avenue or Sand Creek Bridge. So originally we had a $1.6 million design contract with HDR, and this the memo states that shows that there's some city, federal, and RTA funding for this project. They the initial amount that we pulled for design out of the CDOT funding was just short of $1.4 million. And we need to make up the difference for the contract and a change order that's coming. And we didn't want to try to change the CDOT funding portion because that's like a 3 to 4 or 5 month process. So what we're asking for is this project has $5.8 million of RTA money budgeted. So what we're seeking is approval to use $777,000 of the RTA money to cover the difference in the amount of CDOT money available in the design contract, so $244,000 to make up that. It's not a shortfall, but we just didn't encumber CDOT funds. And then there's 2 modifications. One's a design, some extra surveying that we needed for $32,000 in contract modification 1. And then modification 2 is actually going to be for construction, design services during construction for about $500,000.
Yes, Mr. Smith.
Will you recover any of those CDOT funds at some point in time?
Well, there's $7.8 million of CDOT. We just didn't encumber enough for the design, and rather than spend a lot of time trying to redo that, we're just going to use the RTA money. So it's not that we'll recover them, we're just using both pots now instead of the one. Yeah, that makes sense. So we have 2 pots to draw from, and we're just...
You're just drawing from a different
a little
account
bit
for right now?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Chavez?
That one. Next item is just an update on how we're looking at spending the RTA 1 remaining funds on North Mark Shuffle. So there's a memo attached that showed that the county and the city came to the board in 2017 and kind of recommended a priority of how the money should be spent. And the first priority is building the bridge over Sand Creek on the Mark Shuffle alignment. And this is just north of Whitman Road. And we had about $400,000 that we've used for concept design, preliminary design. What we'd like to do now is get use the rest of the money to issue a couple task orders to CPNY. One is $200,000 to finalize design. There's $36,000 to do some water line for CSU, and they will reimburse us that money. And then when we get to construction this summer, we'll need to have construction management services. So we've got a task order planned for AECOM for $200,000. And then the wetland bank credit. There's some wetlands in the channel and near around the channel, and we're going to get into those. We have to realign the channel and make some improvements because there's some slope and bank instability. So in order to keep that stable, we're getting into this wetland. And we are using the credit because that is cheaper. And I think Jennifer from the county spoke last month that if we were to actually go and try to buy some land and establish wetlands in that same vicinity, we have to guarantee that it'll grow and watch it monitor for 5 years. And it's much easier to go to these wetland credits and purchase the credits that are available. So that's why we're looking at using that mechanism. So it's about $536,000 that we're looking at spending out of the 4.2 that's available. And then the last item, is there any question on that one?
No questions.
Last item is a license for Cartograph. And Cartograph is a very elaborate software system that you can track everything and anything. And our operations and maintenance is using RTA funds to purchase the pavement assessment module of that, and that's what they use to puts all the data as far as the condition of the roads and the asphalt, and takes traffic counts into account, so it kind of forecasts your maintenance plan. And so I was asked at the CAC, how did that number come out? The $72,000, that basically pays for their pavement management assessment module.
Move approval of the city contracts.
Pardon?
I move approval of the
Oh.
city contracts.
Do I- It's been moved and seconded to approve the city contracts. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
Nobody. You're unanimous, Mike. City of Manitou Springs.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, board members. My name is Shelley Coba. I'm the Public Services Director for the City of Manitou Springs. Happy Valentine's Day, day early. I'm here to present a couple projects to you. I'm just trying to butter you up a little bit. The first is for Manitou Avenue West End Drainage Improvement Project. This is a big project for the City of Manitou Springs. It will take the undergrounding of utilities and full street rehabilitation improvements from where they end currently at Manitou Avenue in Ruxton to the Serpentine Roundabout by the Zipline business in Manitou, if you're familiar with that. The design fee on this project is $530,225. The total anticipated project construction cost is right around $4.2 million. The RTA funding is being used for 20% tip match, and this is an RTA capital project, and we are requesting approval of the design contract in the amount of $530,225 with the understanding that $106,045 of that will be reimbursable from the PPRTA. Our second contract is one for a citywide mobility study. This is an interesting project that has included a significant collaborative effort with the City of Colorado Springs and the owners of the COG Railway. The city and these other interested parties have signed a memorandum of understanding and will be sharing the cost of this mobility study in thirds. So the cost to the City of Manitou Springs is $50,000. And because the outcome of this mobility study directly impacts our transit shuttle site, we are asking to utilize $50,000 from that capital project to fund the mobility study. And with that, I will stand for questions. Thank you.
Any questions from Ms. Coba? Mr. Mayor, do you have a motion?
I do. I move approval of the two contracts for the City of Manitou Springs.
And everybody seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you all very
Carries unanimously. We are now to item 8, the City of Colorado Springs Transit Services Monthly Report. Mr. Blewett.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Craig Blewett, Transit Services Manager with the City of Colorado Springs. Our report is in your packet. Just going through real quickly in terms of some highlights. Our local route service, there was a slight decrease, about 2% in December of 18 compared to 17. That's really within normal variations, so nothing really to report there. ADA service, we saw a decrease of 5.4% in ridership. That one's a little more notable, so we'll keep an eye on that decrease. Van pool, we had a decrease of about 4.7%. I think the federal government shutdown probably had a factor to play with that. A lot of our van pool participants are federal employees who work up in Denver, and the shutdown started on December 22nd, so that probably impacted that ridership. In terms of projects, really the only thing to report is what we're looking for spring service changes. You know, we do about 2 service changes a year in the spring and the fall. And for the spring, I had mentioned before that the service up to the northern hospitals, North Memorial and Children's Hospital, was postponed at their request because their construction was behind schedule. So they're scheduled to, our Children's, I think, is going to open in May. I think Memorial expansion may have already opened, or it's imminent. So we're going to start that service April 29th. That was per agreement with the hospitals. And so we're looking forward to that new service. We've been busy preparing bus stops along the route, and those will be ready in time for the start of the service.
And Greg, Memorial's having their open house tonight.
Are they really? Okay, terrific. That's great to hear. That's great to hear. It's a great project. and we're happy to serve it, of course. And it has been a very good partnership with the hospitals, similar to the partnership we had with Pikes Peak Community College last year when we began service up there. That is part of our regional plan for transit, was really to focus on improving service in our existing service area and look to expand where we'd have partnerships and good likelihood of success. And we're very happy that this partnership has moved forward. Service reduction, going back to the spring service changes, so Manitou is asked to scale back a little bit in terms of the hours of the shuttle. And so there's a slight change there. It won't, instead of going from, new hours will be from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. For the Manitou Avenue shuttle, Route 36. And then there are also some slight schedule adjustments on Route 25 and also Route 1 that will also be making sure that our ridership is aware of. The magnitude of the service change does not require a public meeting or a series of public meetings. Rather, it's just really announcing what those service changes are going to be. Of course, if there's any comments, we'll be listening to those comments. Be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions? Ms. Avila.
Thank you, Craig. I have a question regarding the hospital, and I think it's a pilot program, the routes to the Northeast hospitals. For the most part, every Metro Mobility ride is tied to the fixed routes. Wherever they go, we can go. And it's my understanding that I would not be able to get a Metro Mobility bus to the hospitals because in this instance, it's not tied to that fixed route. Is that true, or was I misinformed?
That is correct. So the service is oriented towards getting people to the hospitals. And what an option would be to use Metro Mobility, our door-to-door service, to get to the to the bus stop at Academy and Union, and then transfer from there to the fixed route bus that goes up to the hospitals. So many people who have disabilities are able to use the fixed route bus if there's not walking involved. So it would be a point where the customer for Metro Mobility who dropped off at the bus stop would be able to get on the bus and continue on to the hospital.
Well, I know there's always a way to do it, right? And when ADA, we're talking about accessibility and accommodation.
Yes.
And all I'm saying is, in terms of me being a Metro Mobility user for that accommodation, that is not provided for me to go directly from my home to the hospital if I need to go, even though there is going to be a fixed route there. So I just wanted to bring that out.
Sure.
And how that is, there's something lacking there. So
sure,
we've got to figure out how to make that happen.
Absolutely, and I think it would double the cost of the project out of the gates. So as a demonstration project, we would be very reluctant to add ADA service to that because as a demonstration project, if it does not go forward, we'd be providing a service and then taking it back away in terms of service for disabled folks. So we're very cautious on demonstration projects to do that. And the way that works is since it's an express service that runs all the way from Academy and Union all the way up to the hospitals, we are not required to provide ADA service in that area. But that is something, if we were to look to sustain that service, that we would look to also try to provide ADA service as well.
Okay. Any other questions?
I had a quick question.
Yes, Mr. Giray.
Not to show my ignorance, but in terms of the Manitou shuttle, did you say 10 a.m. to 9 p.m.?
That's what I have written in my notes.
7 days a week?
I don't know. I can get back to you, Mayor, on that one.
Right.
So I know this was closely coordinated with Manitou staff and Brian Vituli from my staff.
Right.
So I can get you those times. But what it says in our report here is that due to budget limitations, City of Manitou Springs requested to reduce the operating hours of Route 36 by 3 hours per day. New operating hours will be from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Sunday. So that's 7 days a week.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Great, thank you.
This is informational only. Maintenance of effort reports. Mr. Sonnenberg.
This is an action item. The 5-member governments have submitted their annual maintenance of effort presentations, their reports for their 2019 non-RTA budget, either for roadway maintenance or in the City of Colorado Springs situation for transit. And all member governments have presented information that the CAC felt met the compliance of the 2019 non-RTA budgets of each of the 5 member governments, meeting or exceeding their 2004 pre-RTA budgets.
And we already discussed that next week,
Yes,
next
yes.
month we'll bring this up.
Yes.
Any questions for Mr. Sonnenberg on this? Well, I just wanted to clarify, I have a question now that nobody else does, just to clarify, that the maintenance of effort report that is being accepted or being moved to be accepted in a second, this is consistent with what the member governments have submitted since 2004 as far as maintenance of effort is concerned. Is that correct?
Well, the key definition word is well, let me start over. The short answer is yes.
Okay.
But the devil's in the details, because some of the member governments have changed the line item category names in what they feel is roadway maintenance
Gotcha.
or transit.
Okay.
More in roadway maintenance than in transit. So some of the line items of the large entities have changed over the years, but they are still certifying that those line items are expenses for their roadway maintenance, and they add up to a bottom line figure that is at least as much as they were spending in roadway maintenance in 2004 pre-RTA.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Mr. Bennett has moved approval. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries unanimously. City of Colorado Springs Value Engineering Update for the America Beautiful Bridge, Park Bridge.
Mike Chavez, City Engineering. So last month, we had a change order for the architect for the America the Beautiful Bridge for some value engineering for $48,000, and there was a question as to what did that gain us, or what do we save? So just a little update. Bottom line is we saved about $1.5 million on the bridge cost, and two main things that contributed to that was the contractor actually looked at being able to build more of the bridge on the ground and then moving it over the tracks and into place. So that is saving us time, is also saving us less time working over the railroad tracks, so there's less flagging costs that we have to reimburse the railroad for. And the other thing is that we actually looked at the different deck materials and thickness of the deck for less expensive materials, and both those items had to be evaluated by the design consultant to make sure that as we're moving this bridge, it doesn't fall apart on us or fall down. So, yeah, so that's why we gave them an extra fee to kind of reanalyze those items. And that's really about it.
Any questions for Mr. Chavez? Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Now the City of Colorado Springs monthly change order and property acquisition report. And don't go anywhere yet.
This is an informational item. If there's any questions?
Any questions regarding that? Okay, thank you. Now you can go.
Thank you.
Item number 9, administrative actions and reports, the CDOT's I-25 GAPS project update.
This is the monthly update, and I've started showing the changes from the prior month in red. So you'll see in number 1 that the El Paso County Board of County Commissioners did accept and sign the $65 million federal infra grant for the GAP. And you'll see the other changes, particularly number 5, where the construction completion date has stretched out to summer of 2022 rather than late 2021.
Any questions regarding the update? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Before we get to item number 10, this is we're going to see if we're going to go into executive session. which I expect is going to happen, but if it doesn't, then it won't. But if we do go into executive session, I just want the audience to know that it's expected that item 11 will be addressed in open public session after the executive session. Item number 11 is a third amended and restated establishing IGA regarding the gap funding project. So we want to address in item number 10 some issues related to that. You guys are more than welcome to stick around, and we're going to come back into open session after item number 10 to address item number 11. So with that, Jennifer, if you want to go ahead and read the appropriate language.
I would be looking for a motion to convene into an executive session pursuant to Colorado Revised Statutes Sections 246402 4B and 4E for the purposes of conferencing with an attorney to receive legal advice on specific legal questions and/or determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiation and instructing counsel in connection therewith related to the establishing IGA.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. No nays. So if we could prepare the room for the executive session.
Pursuant to the Colorado Open Meetings Law, we will be providing legal advice during this executive session. Therefore, no further recording needs to be made of this executive session.
Oh, no.
I don't think this is, okay, we are out of executive session. I understand that there is a motion from somebody.
So yeah, the motion I'd be looking for would be direction to PPRTA staff, PPACD staff, I guess it is, and myself, to refer out the proposed third amended and restated establishing IGA to the member governments for their approval.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that carries unanimously. Jennifer, you've received your direction. Now, I guess we're going to take this out. There's a representative from the Department of Transportation, I understand. Come on up, tell us your name, and give us an update on the I-25 GAP project. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Yeah, my name is Paul Neiman. I'm CDOT, the project director for construction of the I-25 GAP project. So I got a little slideshow I went through earlier, but I'm going to try and make it quick here and just kind of hit a couple of really the timeline in which we're going and trying. You know, we had that article come out from the Gazette about us being a little bit late, but we're not really, but you know how things go with the media, so we're just trying to make sure you guys understand where we're at with construction and what we're dealing with and why we're kind of pushing that date now a little bit here, a little bit further. So here's our project right now. We're in this package 1. We are started work up there. Package 2 is about to come online today, hopefully Friday. We were hoping. Sure.
She would. She's, yes, she needs to.
Yeah, so, just let me know any questions, because I just don't want to get too much detail, but whatever detail you need. So the project is the 18 miles. It's basically broken up into 3 packages, the way we're putting this out to advertisement. We've got Kramer on board as the contractor, and they're helping us design as we build at the same time, so we're doing this here. So the way we broke it up into these 3 packages, basically it's every 6 miles, starting from the first package is from Plum Creek to basically Toma Road, Larkspur area. The second package we've chosen as the part between Monument and Greenland. And the third package is everything in between, really Upper Lake Gulch, Larkspur, just north of Greenland in that area. So we broke it up like that kind of strategically because the first package has no bridges. It's a little bit simpler to get out the door and kind of meet that deadline and get the project going. And we were able to do that by that September date there, get going on construction. Package 2 now is the southern section. So, and you see the way the graphic gets a little funny, but package 2 is the southern part, like I said, between Monument and Greenland. That's scheduled really we were just waiting on contracts. So we have a negotiated price. We're ready to go. Kramer's got the package, and we're ready to go on that. We're actually starting some work in that area now. As you can see, some of the barrier that we've set out there and some of the lane restriping stuff we're doing. So that one is ready to go. That one has the bridges in it, probably 4 bridges. We have 8 bridges total on the project. And we were looking to do a few more, but we've cut it based on scope, where we've been at with money. Now that we're in design, like I said, the first package was $50 million that went out. The whole project is this $350, about $300 in construction. $50 million went out. We're still designing the other $120 and $120 million that we're still in. So package 3 is another $120 million or so that we're trying to get all the rest of the elements into this, with the lanes and the bridges, and fix what we need to in there while utilizing the existing pavement. So that's kind of where we're at. So package 3 now is looking at a July construction date. So, and the importance of that is we are losing some of the paving season this year, and the paving is what is driving the whole project. There's 800,000 tons of paving on this job. We've put down about 2,000 so far. We got a ways to go still, and that is really our critical path to get down. And the final lift that we are doing, the surface you will ride on, is our special SMA material that we like to use on the top level of pavement. That's a little more durable. We've been using it for years. That particular product is only available to get between April-May timeframe to October. They stop producing the oil that you need to use that. So that is critical path in how we put this together. So by this July date, kind of throws us off a little bit to get a lot of paving done in the package 3 this year, because July means we've got to go in there, we've got to grade, we've got to get it ready, we've got to prep it. By the time we get to actually do any paving in there, it's going to be the end of the season. So that's why this is beginning to push to the 2022 time frame that you guys have been hearing about. So, and this is part of some of our design challenges that we've been dealing with package 3. Really, package 2 also is that the pavement is worse than we thought out there. So we're working on that. That has added some pavement, because part of this job to save money was utilizing the existing surface that was out there. And now we're trying to use that, but some of that surface cannot be used the way it is. We've got to actually go in there and do some more full depth reconstruction on it and prep it to get it up to standard. So that has added another 85,000 tons of asphalt. So the total is still 800,000, and we were about 720, 730 before. We're still at about 800,000 overall with that 85,000. So that, like I said, is kind of driving the whole critical path. When we originally estimated this project, Kramer, who came on board last year, got 30% look at everything we did and put it in. So now is to put that timeline in there at the end of 2021 was the original kind of thought we were getting in to finish this. But like I said, as more pavement comes into it, it's all based on that. They're looking at it now. The scope is being defined much better. We're seeing more of the issues. The scope is creating the schedule, basically. So package 1, though, this is a couple key things here. Package 1 is still, no matter what, we've got under contract to be completed by November 2020. So that means, completed means final mat, final surface, final striping, everything in place in that package 1 area. That's the Plum Creek to Toma Road area. Has to be done by November of 2020. So we'll have full shoulders, we'll have everything set up, ready to go. Package 2 also has a date for November of 2021. So the southern section has to be done, final lift and everything also by that date. Then the package 3 area, like I said, so the package 3 area we're looking at is now, we haven't put that together. We're still waiting for the contract language on that to give them a final date on when we need that. But looking at the schedule, it's going to roll to a 2022 for final payment through the whole area of package 3. But we're going to have we're going to still have it paid out with the lower lifts. You understand, we build it in many lifts of the asphalt. So we'll have the lower lifts, we'll have all the widening, we'll have all the earthwork done, of course, to get to that point. We'll have the walls built, the bridges will be built, everything will be pushed out. So by the end of 2021, most likely the public will not realize where we're at, because the only thing we'll be missing really is the final SMA layer that we'll do the next year in 2022. And we'll do that at nighttime, like a standard overlay type of project that we would do. So you'll have striping, you'll have everything out there. Everything will look, we'll have the width is the big part of it for incidents and all those kind of safety benefits that we're trying to get out of this project. So we'll have that look by the end of 2021. But true completion of the project is 2022. And, of course, landscape and all those things continue on after that. But as far as the major construction will be done by 2022. Like I said, everything's really 2021. 2022 is just the paving. We expect to have just about everything else, all the drainage. I mean, the project just has a lot of simple things, nothing major. It's a lot of pavements, a lot of inlet drainage, conduit we're putting in. We've got 12 miles of fencing. This is just a slide I put together with some of the quantities we've got up there. This 51 miles of conduit we're installing. We're about 70% done with that. We've got this 24 miles of wildlife fencing that we haven't done any yet. Those are really on packages 2 and 3. We've got a bunch of walls that we need, which is really the center wall, the center median wall. That's that we have about, I think we have about 1,300 feet of that done so far. And that was a big milestone for us. We've got 2,000 tons of asphalt down and 1,300 feet of wall. We've got to put the asphalt down to get the wall built. And we had to put the wall down because we've got to figure out how to produce that. That wall is it's a new thing for all of us here in Colorado. So we're trying to figure out production rates on that to make sure we can get that done in time too. And Kramer's been really good at trying to figure that out. So we've got a ways to go. We got a lot of drainage pipe in though. We're doing that. That's really kind of critical path too. We've got to get the underground stuff in. So that's going well too though. That continues through the weather. We've been hampered a little bit by the weather, but typical as we expect and scheduled that, in the winter months we don't have that many working days. So, and then we got the bridges, and it says 12. It's really 8 locations, but there's about 12 bridges total because they're separated. So, this is just, you can see what we're doing up there, just working in the middle right now, trying to get all this stuff in that we said. We're going to switch traffic to the outside in this northern section here in June or July. The southern part here now that's coming online, the monument to Greenland area, that one's a little trickier. Kind of traffic will be pushed in and out at different areas and then phased around the bridges. So there's 3 wildlife crossings in this package 2 that we're doing, the southern section, plus the Greenland Bridge that we're also doing. So traffic has got to be phased around that. So there'll be some curves and lots of barrier lining and all of that. And same when package 3 comes online. So eventually package 3 will be in July, and then the whole entire 18 miles will be under construction in July of this year. So pretty much 18 miles lined with barrier, with curves back and forth, and so it's going to be quite a lengthy work zone. There's some traffic ramp closures. I talked a little bit about that before about just there's no detours planned off of a 25. Everybody's been asking us about that in public meetings, but there's nothing we're pushing to 105 or 83 at all. So they've asked us quite a bit about that, but we're not pushing any traffic there. Everything's going to be maintained within the I-25 template, up and over ramps or around ramps, around Larkspur and Upper Lake Gulch and Spruce Mountain. So just the impacts, and I just highlight this a little bit because, obviously we're going to have major impacts out there with what we're doing. We've got a lot of truck traffic. Flagging out there, nighttime closures. We're working, as soon as Package 2 comes online here, we're going to be working almost every day out there. Saturdays will be makeup days, and we start Sunday night for night work, so it's going to be pretty continuous work for the next 2.5, 3 years as we get to this project. So part of that is we know how impactful we are, and it's a big strategy, and a big part of our budget is trying to mitigate some of the impacts here to the community. So we've got a lot of tactics, typical tactics, and we have some extraordinary tactics that we're using on this project to try and help motorists get through. Part of this is the My Way. We've added the bus staying service. We're working with the van pool increase, trying to get people to use van pools to help part of that. We've got these pullouts that we're doing. We're requiring the contractor to have pullouts for emergency people pulling over, for whatever reasons. We've got the safety patrols, a big thing there, which is the tow truck. That guy, we've added a second one in Package 2 because that has been really valuable for us to get those cars out of the way and off the road as quick as possible. And we've got a lot of smart work zone stuff, which is just VMS boards that we can control, we can manipulate, we can give people distance, time indications. We're going to put speed limits for queue detection, so if there is a slowdown up ahead, we can actually slow the speed limits down ahead of that to help people out. And then, one of the bigger things that we're working just every 2 weeks, we meet with emergency responders out there. So we meet with Douglas County, Castle Rock, CSP, and everybody just so they understand our work zone and we understand their limits or capabilities so we can kind of work together and figure out how they can respond and get to incidents and anything that they need to out there. We've added CSP enforcement. The project's paying for additional enforcement just to enforce the work zone and keep people in there, and then we've got tracking. We're tracking quite a bit of data just to make changes as we go along, trying to see trends in where wrecks are at, where people are having problems, anything like that. We're doing a ton of tracking, and one of our things up there, this is the thing I like to highlight, is that we've got about 300 incidents that we've recorded so far from our courtesy patrol guy. He's required to record anytime he contacts somebody. 100 of those have been accidents. About 200 of them are just people stopping in the lanes, just people trying to find a diaper in the back of their car, trying to grab their cell phone, looking for a book, something like that. They're just people pulling over. So we're really beefing up our PR campaign as a whole. Big part of this strategy on traffic control is trying to get the word out to everybody. Move over, move off the highway, don't stop, don't stand anywhere on the highway, get out of the way. So we've got a huge PR campaign budget on this that we're trying to reach out to everybody with text alerts and just normal, all the media outlets that our PR team has, hits daily, weekly, they're required to. So that's about the bulk of it there. There's some contact information there. So I don't know if you guys have any questions about that, but just wanted to say thanks for letting me give you guys an update and let you guys know, where we're at. We're still moving. We're in a good place still with construction, regardless of some of the headlines coming out. So, any questions?
Any questions?
Yeah, it's going to be fun here. Monument will be fun, tough. So.
Peterbilt with an air horn for those people. Move it.
Yeah, we're nervous about Monument. Monument has a lot of problems when we're not here at all, and now we're here with the major project, and we've got a few strategies we're working on for that, and it's just continue working with them first responders and what we can do, and CDOT maintenance, of course, too. CDOT maintenance is on board with plowing operations, understand the limitations and what we're doing, and so we're coordinating with a lot of people, and then just trying to reach out to you guys. We've had a ton of public meetings, telephone town halls, trying to get the word out to people. So I always think we're getting out to everybody, but then I can talk to somebody out the door who's never heard of the project. So that's the way it goes. So, but yeah.
Any other questions, concerns? Thank you so much for coming. Next time, if you're down here, let us know in advance.
Yeah, I didn't know. I figured you were going to ask or something about if there was anybody here. So no problem.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
No update on item 12.
Okay, thank you. Then we are PPRTA member announcements. Does anybody have any announcements, things to say other than Mr. Gervais going to announce that he's ready to leave? Anything else? All right, thank you. We're adjourned. Thank you.